What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, DFS, and sports betting home here at fakepigskin.com. I'm your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me once again, it's the real Bobby Adcock. What's up, Bobby?
Kyle, I'm in Michigan. It's cold. It's dark. But I'm here with you, so I'm okay. I'm okay, and I think the DFS stuff has been going pretty well in the last couple weeks, so I'm okay with that. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I am heading to Portland this weekend for a little getaway, so I'm excited about that. Some delicious food, some good drinking, some fun times will be had for sure. But yeah, as always, I look forward to our chats on Thursday. Obviously, this is the DFS episode. If you're interested in sports betting, we will be doing that as well. And we will actually talk a little college football this week, something where if you've been reading my column, it is a little more my forte, and I've been doing very, very well, including 6-0-1 last week for those that are following along. So things are going really well, although I will say, of course, this is the week we dive into college football when the board is very, very ugly, and I feel terrible about all my picks, but we'll see how that goes. But as we mentioned, we are here to talk some DFS and primarily DraftKings. Obviously, we'll give you some info on players that can help you if you play on FanDuel, if you play on Draft, if you play on any other DFS site. But we do focus on DraftKings in terms of pricing and all that good stuff. So, Bobby, let's do like we always do, and let's dive into some quarterback plays and talk to me about where does your attention go? When you're thinking, I want a quarterback, who jumps off the page, who makes the most sense for you this week?
Well, my attention goes to first. I have a question about your trip to Portland.
Yes.
Being ignorant in a man from Michigan in the Midwest, I've had limited time in your neck of the woods. So, first question: are you driving to Portland?
No. It's drive-able, and I've done it before. It's about 12 hours from where I am. But no, I will.
That's a big state.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So all the way.
Sorry. Big left coast.
Yeah. So basically, I'm kind of northern central California. So it's 6 or 8 hours to Oregon, and then Portland's a lot closer to Seattle than it is California. So it's about 10, 12 hours, and it's a fun drive, and it definitely. If you do a West Coast trip, would highly recommend kind of doing that so you can see as much as possible. But no, it's like an hour flight. I'm gonna get in, and enjoy the city, and with the 3-day holiday, I'll be coming back Monday, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Obviously, we'll be diving into as much college. I got to watch my Buckeyes beat your Spartans this week, which is going to happen. Dabble in some NFL on Sunday, and then enjoy the shit show that is the Niners and Giants on Monday night. But yeah, no, it's definitely, I'm definitely excited. And
is it sports involved, or is it just like friends involved?
No, it's just me and my wife. We're doing a little getaway for the weekend. But as most things that involve me, there will be some sort of sport watching. The Blazers are playing Boston on Sunday night, so if I can find some decent prices on StubHub, I may be in attendance for that game. But we'll see. Just a little getaway before the holidays and all the craziness hit. But
Excellent.
As we are here for, everyone's really, I'm sure, biting, really excited about all my travel plans. But let's talk quarterback. And let's see where your head's at. So, who are you most interested in this week?
Well, I mean, I think honestly at this point, Patrick Mahomes is
pretty good at football.
He's a good player if you like that sort of thing. And honestly, I think at his price, I could probably argue that he's relatively undervalued, right? I mean, like, I think I'm looking at his points right now from DraftKings: 38, uh, 30, 36, 32, 20, 25, 41. I mean, it look, I love. He's obviously number one with a bullet. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna have him in a lot of lineups, and I think if you want to go, you know, in the 6K range, I don't have a big argument against anybody. I guess my pick might be Breeze, but what are you thinking there?
So there is no way I am playing Breeze. If people want to go crazy and play him, go for it. Um, in 8 outdoor games since 2017, this is per Jared Smola of Draft Sharks at Smola DS. So many good nuggets for fantasy football owners. In 8 games outdoors since 2017, Breeze has averaged 240 passing yards and 1.25 touchdowns. If you look at his game log, he's played 2 outdoor games this year. It was Baltimore, where he threw for 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pretty good against a really good defense. But,
Sure.
3.5 quarters of really underwhelming play kind of left a lot to be desired, as well as the game against the Giants, which is the only other outdoor game this year, 217 yards, no touchdowns. Now, the Bengals are a good defense. They're okay, but they can be thrown on. And so you think, okay, great matchup, great opportunity. I'm really excited about the potential of Breeze here. Des Bryant's there, and we always do want to hit on that when we talk receivers in terms of Golden Tate, Des Bryant. Obviously, Demarius got his feet wet last week. We didn't really get to address those trades, but it just, for what you have to pay for the potential output, I don't think the risk is worth the reward. I'd much rather go Jared Goff for $200 less. I'd much rather go Matt Ryan in that ballpark.
Fitz magic.
Magic, I love 5,900 against Washington. Honestly, I'd take Andy Dalton over Drew Brees. Dalton's at home. Dalton's going against the worst pass defense, and I know he won't have AJ Green, which may scare some people off. So lower ownership, he might be in play for some GPPs. I think Tyler Boyd and CJ Uzama, and they can do enough with what they have. For me, it's just I don't find value there. Like I'd much rather any of the names we discussed.
Oh, we're going to talk about Tyler Boyd, but
Okay.
yeah, no, I like, honestly, if I'm going, look, I think at this point, like, even from fantasy gambling, whatever we're talking about, I think the Chiefs are kind of out of control in a sense where it's just like, hey, just throw a stack out there, just do it. Like last week, I had a lot of Mahomes, Kareem Hunt stacks, and
That worked out pretty nicely.
yeah, no, it did, and but honestly, if you keep looking back at the season, it's worked out nicely a lot, and I this might be, I don't want to derail this whole thing, but I think I want to talk just a brief moment about the DK thing. I shared a little Google Doc with you where I've extracted a lot of the DK results in the last 5 weeks and showed what the Millie Maker results were. Did you take it? Did you have a chance?
No, I powered through that, and like you mentioned, there's some very interesting results.
Yeah, so I think that one thing I just want to kind of, I posted this on Reddit. It got a pretty good response, a lot of comments. And the one thing I kind of want to look at is just like, as far as like the multiple entries in, like people kind of this, it could be just me, but I feel like there's a lot of discussion around like, hey, if you play in these GPPs, it's impossible to win, and unless you're playing the max entries, which is 150 in the Millie Maker. Look, here's the breakdown of the Millie Maker winner the last 5 weeks. Last week, the winner had 21 lineups. Week 8, the winner had 2 lineups. Week 7, 1 lineup. Week 6, 34 lineups. Week 5, 35 lineups. I think the more even interesting thing is if of top 10 finishers the last 5 weeks, 70% of the lineups were from people that set less or 10 or less lineups. So for me, I set in the Millie Maker, I might throw out, I would say 4 to 6 Millie Maker lineups a week. So I don't, I just, to me, looking at that stuff doesn't mean like you're going to win it. No, but it just kind of tells you that these people don't have a huge advantage over just like beating you all every week. Did you agree with this or no?
Yeah, no, I definitely think you can take a couple bites at the apple and see how it goes. But yeah, I don't think you have to play 40 lineups. I don't think you have to be, a DFS tout to have a shot at winning this. The one thing I will say that I think is pretty interesting is a lot of these people use really good quarterbacks. Obviously, there was the Mitchell Trubisky week where he went off for 5 touchdowns, I think, against Tampa.
Yeah.
So the majority of the teams finishing in the money there used him. But there's a lot of, like week 1, a lot of Aaron Rodgers. Last week, a lot of Drew Brees. Those that you didn't use Drew Brees used Jared Goff, Matt Ryan, upper echelon quarterbacks. The week before, Pat Mahomes, Cam Newton, Ben Roethlisberger. So, I think it's, while I do agree there's a lot of times where using a really cheap quarterback allows you to do a lot, it definitely makes sense. I also think you shouldn't just write off quarterback either and just immediately dive towards the bottom. Because there's a lot of receivers and running backs that you can find, especially if you do your little homework and you find guys that pop off the page, you can find some value at all those positions to make a Patrick Mahomes work, to make a Aaron Rodgers work. So, it's kind of a little column A, a little column B. But to your point, I don't think you have to go crazy with yeah.
Yeah, and I think kind of just to add on to what you're saying, like yes, right. You don't need to like fade quarterback or anything like that. Like, yeah, you pay attention to quarterback, but the real point is like if you look at the lineups that were in a lot of these tie finishers, like they a lot of it is chalk, but you know what? What happens is the way they win and the way we all win in stuff like this is last week. What made the big winners get over? Maurice Harris, Adam Humphries, Duke Johnson. So those are the plays that ultimately kind of like. And how do you know those? You're just kind of like throwing darts. So I think kind of a theme for a lot of this stuff is you get a little bit chalky, and then you throw some logical, maybe a little irrational darts out there and see what happens. And that's like I played Michael Roberts a lot in my lineups. It's not good, but you see, I'm gonna play him again this week. But you see what happens. So I think that's the way DFS goes. And I think I hear a lot of people talking about like, oh, I hate DFS. I'm gonna quit. I never win. It's like, hey, look, it's just kind of, you shouldn't get that discouraged is what I'm saying. Yeah. It is what it is. And it's all good fun. So let's just
don't go crazy. Like, don't put $500 in and play every dollar you have and be mad when you lose $500. Like, put a little bit of money in, enough that if you lose it all, you're fine with. And honestly, I like to keep a bankroll and play like, I don't know, 50 or 60% of my bankroll. So next week I can play again, and if I win, I'm just trying to keep that at the same level. So before we move on, talk running backs, I do want to mention I love Phillip Rivers this week. We saw what Nick Mullins did to the Raiders last week. And I'll hit you with some Keenan Allen stats when we talk wide receivers because I am big on him as well. But yeah, I think this week I'm all aboard the Phillip Rivers train at 6,000, and we talked about Breeze at 6,300. I'll save $300. I'll play Phil Rivers, and I'll be very happy about it.
Yes, I like him at that range. I love, for me, it's kind of like Mahomes or Fitzmagic, so which is Fitzmagic in the same range as Phil Rivers. So yes, uh, love that. Let's move to running backs a little bit. And again, I'm kind of trending in that theme of like I kind of really prefer two guys in the top 5 or 7 guys. So
Hmm.
that would be so if we're talking here, I would say I like Kareem Hunt as one of my top guys. He's the fourth highest running back, and then if I want to get out of that range, okay, if I want to get out of that range, because I think you should stick in that range, but if I go out of that range, Tevin Coleman, he would be
Mm.
my guy, 5400. What are
Not,
you
I'm
looking at?
not, I'm not going anywhere near Tevin Coleman. That guy burns me so much. And I know last week he had a monster game, but both of them came in the passing game. I don't trust him as a rusher. He's been incredibly annoying. At running back this week, I love paying up, and that's not usually something I say. I'm all aboard the Todd Gurley train. I think he is going to be so pissed about losing, about having this is a guy that's basically been 30 DK points or more every single week, and last week he didn't even break 20. He is going to want the ball. He's going to be very good with it, and he is going to run all over the Seahawks. At 9,400, I know it's expensive, but I am absolutely willing to pay up. As I mentioned with my Drew Brees love, or lack thereof, rather, I think this is a game where New Orleans is comfortable leaning on the run game. I think this is a big Alvin Kamara game against a Bengals defense that has issues stopping the run. I'm with you on Kareem Hunt. He is so impactful. Obviously,
So
against Arizona, should be able to have a field day. Can be involved in the pass. Can be involved in the run. A great option. Um, so let me ask you, David Johnson, Kansas City is a defense you can run on. He's still pretty affordably priced, but we think this game probably gets pretty sideways. Is he someone that is not worth taking a look at, or do you think there's enough potential between the ways that Rosen will probably throw him a few checkdowns? Rose, we didn't mention Rosen on when we talk quarterbacks, but I don't hate him if you're looking to go really cheap at the position because you can throw in Kansas City, and they're going to need him to. But what are your thoughts on David Johnson?
well, yeah, and two, just to talk about the passing game. Obviously, we think they're gonna be down. Fitz is one of my like big guys this week, but and he's cheap, but yeah, no, to me like there's I think if I count the running backs, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think David Johnson in the Millie Maker that 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock contest. I think he's the seventh guy where like that's where the cutoff goes. After him, it goes right to RB2. The next guy is Leonard Fournette, which
Mm-hmm.
is a total like that's
Yep.
very wishy washy right there. So, no, I think David Johnson's great. To me, he reminds me kind of last week is almost as kind of I mean nowhere near Kamara play. Don't get me wrong here, but in terms of a price point, Kamara was like 7,300 last week,
Yeah.
and if you played him, it was like out of his mind. So he's 6,800 this week, and yeah, he has the matchup, and he's not Kamara, but at least one game this year where he's proved he can have the upside to have a big game to get you 30 points. So, um, no, I think David Johnson is a like the lower end RB1, but definitely an RB1 in terms of DK play, and I think a strong play for DK.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you there. I do wonder, are we going back to the Duke Johnson well this week, or do you think that was a little blip on the radar?
Well, I'm so upset in general. Is everyone who ever drafted him in season? I mean, like in season long leagues or been playing him early on in uh, the first 10 weeks or 9 weeks of DK, or except for last week, of course. They're probably so jaded with Duke that yeah, I, I I know we love to say like, oh, he's back. This is the week, and this week was the big like, hey, Duke, pick up Duke. Look, it's fine. You can play him. I still think if you're playing him, it's a hopeful play, right?
Yeah.
It's a game flow play. Let's be honest. He got all those numbers because they got down huge, and he benefited, which was he produced fine, great. But like, I'm not buying like, oh, he's gonna somehow be like this, like, hey, he's gonna get like 7 catches a week now. If he does, great. But like, that happened because of a certain game flow to me. What are you buying?
I think I am. I think the fact that the OC is now the running backs coach is now the OC. I think that helps. I still prefer Nick Chubb to Duke Johnson, but I do buy him a little bit. I'll tell you one person I'm not buying is Mr. Adrian Peterson at 5,700. He lost both of his guards this week. The run blocking is going to be putrid, even in a seemingly great matchup. I think people are going to play him against Tampa and be very, very disappointed. Is there people sub 5,000 that you're looking at? You're like, ooh, I could definitely pencil him in and feel pretty good about it.
No,
Mike Davis, 4,300. I know it's not a great matchup, but I would not expect Chris Carson to play this week.
I wrote a little bit about this in my in the running back rankings that we posted. I said don't trust Pete Carroll, and do I think Mike Davis will get the nod if Chris Carson's out? For sure, but all it takes is one series and one nice play with Rashad Penny, and I think that could easily turn into like Rashad Penny getting the line share, or definitely getting at least an even split with Mike Davis. So, it's not. I still think it's a great matchup in any regard, but no, I'm not in love with either of those guys, and especially because I think Penny could be as big a factor as Mike Davis could. You?
I really want Rashad Penny to be a thing, but Pete Carroll doesn't, and so I'm perfectly fine playing Mike Davis. I also don't mind Ito Smith at 3,700. I think this could be a game where Atlanta, in a little foreshadowing to one of my plays potentially, Atlanta plays really well and even on the road wins pretty convincingly, and I think Ito Smith could get double-digit touches and be interesting. I also kind of like Dion Lewis. I think the Titans figured something out on Monday night, and I know it's against Dallas, and I'm a Titans fan, so take this with a grain of salt, but it looked like they were finally kind of doing what you expected to see from an offense, and Mariota's finally feeling his fingertips, which I think is important when you're the quarterback. Dion Lewis, 4,600 against his old team. I think could be a little interesting if you wanna save a little money at running back, but I think the play at running back this week is to spend up.
I agree.
So if we're spending up at running back, who are we saving money at receiver?
Well, we talked about Tyler Boyd, and
Tyler Boyd, I want to be on board with, but at $7,500, they took his price. Let's look at his game log because it has it. And I remember having this conversation with you about, what was it, week 5, right after the Atlanta game, or maybe it was right before the Atlanta game. 4,600, 5,700. We're like, oh, this is gonna be a guy who's gonna skyrocket. Here we are, Bobby. We found the week. We found Tyler Boyd is expensive week, and obviously AJ Green being out, a great matchup against New Orleans. They jacked up his price, but 6,000, 6,700. Now we're up to 7,500.
He's the 4th highest priced receiver.
That is mind-boggling. He's more expensive than Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, Josh Gordon, T.Y. Hilton. Like, if I had told you by the midseason, Boyd.
I don't agree with Tyreek Hill and Mike Evans, but I agree with all the rest of them. For this week, I do. For
No,
this week,
yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if I would have told you before the season started, by the midseason, Tyler Boyd is going to be more expensive than all these guys, you would have told me I was fucking crazy and to not just to go away. Like, what are you talking about? So let's talk. Let's start. I guess Tyler Boyd at 7,500, is the value still there in a good matchup, in one where you expect the Bengals to be at least competitive? Are you willing to put him in your lineups at that price?
Well, yes, absolutely. Here's what I'll say: is just ignore the price. Yes, absolutely. Um, it, yes, absolutely. And if you look at the board and you look at just kind of okay who the matchups are and where who you're investing in, like is he this, is he that? Like, yeah, like I'll put him in all day if I can over 8,300 of Julio Jones. Um, sure. I'll play Tyler Boyd. He's been that productive. They're really. I'm perfectly fine playing him and saving like $500-$700. So, um, I love him. I love Keenan Allen at 7,100, I believe it is.
Oh yeah.
Who's been
Oh yeah.
who's been totally stellar and has a great matchup and hasn't had a touchdown in a while, and I think that's going to change.
And let me give you a little nugget on top of that. This is per numberfire.com, who puts out some great quality content. In games where the Chargers are a favorite, Keenan Allen averages over 4 more points a game in half PPR. His averages, and this is 33 games where they're a favorite to 29 games where they're not. So over 4 more points a game in half PPR. The average is almost 2 more touchdowns, or I guess it would be So and so this is honestly, the RotoViz thing is always a little confusing to me, but it's receptions. So his receptions go from about 5 a game to almost 7. His touchdowns go up. So if he was a favorite all season, he had 1 more touchdown. His targets go up and his yards go up. So he goes from basically 50, 60 yards a game to almost 90 yards a game in games where the Chargers are a favorite. So you may think, oh, the Chargers are a favorite. They're going against a crappy Raiders team. I'm gonna stack Melvin Gordon and avoid the passing game, when that's actually the opposite of what you want to do. You want to go Phillip Rivers. You want to go Keenan Allen. That stack will be prevalent in a lot of my rosters.
Yeah, I played him last week and I loved him. He had another just like kind of it's kind of he just had a kind of a nice week last week. Not a lot of hubbub. 6 for 124. It's really a huge week, but not going to allow potentially to score. So no, I love Allen again this week.
Yep, I am 100% on board. Are you paying up? Obviously, Michael Thomas is a great one, but as I mentioned with Breeze, I'm a little concerned about his Breeze's upside. So Thomas, I think, will be really good once again, and obviously worthy of that price. But you have to have a little reservation just because Breeze doesn't traditionally play well. That said, the big touchdown came against Baltimore was a Michael Thomas touchdown, and then but you could get like he did against the Giants, 4 catches, 47 yards. So be ready for that to happen. Let's venture down. The one thing I will say, and if you're playing and keeping an eye, if Gronk doesn't play this week, I love Josh Gordon at 6,000. I dug into the numbers a little bit, and in the 2 games Gronk didn't play for the Patriots, Josh Gordon had 4 catches on 7 targets for 100 yards, and the game on Sunday night against the Packers, 5 catches on 10 targets for 130 yards and a touchdown. So his 200-yard performances have both came with Gronk out of the lineup. So that helps open things up. Obviously, Titans are actually a really good defense, and in terms of points allowed, I think they're only allowing like 17 points, number 1 in the NFL right now. Yeah, and so but I think at that price, uh, you can find good value. Um, it's but only if Gronk is out. If Gronk plays, I'm not interested in him at that price. Anybody else tickle your fancy? A little Kenny Galladay. It feels like a uh, underpriced option at 550 100. I know you're kind of upset with your Lions, but I do think it's interesting. Marquez Valdez Scantling at 5,000. He's kind of a Twitter crush for a lot of people right now, which kind of scares me. It kind of reminds me last week when everyone was all excited about DJ Moore and talking about DJ Moore week, and then he ends up doing almost nothing. So that does worry me a little bit. But what names stand out to you? Who are you looking at if you're looking to save a little money at wideout?
If I go two like boring guys, that no one really likes and that are capable of putting up big numbers, I like Fitz, uh, Larry Fitzgerald at Kansas City, who just had a pretty big game coming off or before the bye week. Um, and I'll say Allen Robinson, who's been quiet because he's been hurt, going against my Detroit Lions, who can't stop anything.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I
I,
mean, look,
I I love the Allen Robinson call. Obviously, he was dealing with the groin injury, but everything points to him being fully healthy. And I like the Fitz call, but if I'm taking an Arizona receiver, I am going with Christian Kirk. I think he is a receiver on the way up. If you look at his game log, the last 3 games, 7 targets, 6 targets, 7 targets, becoming more productive. Obviously, Josh Rosen is playing better, and if you want to get a little Christian Kirk, Josh Rosen stack, I would not be mad at you.
no, and I think that's a very like reasonable stack to make just because of the matchup. They're gonna have to. They're gonna be behind. We know it.
Hmm.
So they're gonna have to keep pace, and they're gonna have to be a lot of throwing. So I like that stack.
Any other receivers you want to throw out before we shift and talk a little tight end?
No,
Okay, let's talk tight end. Where does your eyes find you this week? Who are you looking at? Where can you find value?
I mean besides Michael Roberts,
Oh, obviously. I mean, I figured he's in all your lineups.
right? So no, I think one thing that's been interesting with tight ends. So if you look at the top, we got in the millionaire guy. Yeah, Kelsey, Gronk. Which I mean, is anyone really gonna throw out Gronk over Kelsey? Okay, let me ask you this question. Let me phrase it this way: are you gonna throw out Gronk over obviously not Kelsey, but over OJ Howard, Jared Cook, Jimmy Graham, or Jordan Reed or Jack Doyle?
I will play Gronk over Jimmy Graham. I will play Gronk over Jared Cook. I would play Gronk over Jordan Reed.
Okay.
But
Okay.
Jack Doyle, I love. I expect him to get a ton of volume. OJ Howard has been incredible. I'm very good with that. It's just like the Raiders. Like I want Jared. Like Jared Cook was so good for those first few weeks, but now I'm definitely concerned about this offense and kind of the direction they're headed. That I don't know if I feel good about playing him. What about you?
Well, so I mean, what's interesting about that is not just for this week, but maybe in beyond. OJ Howard, welcome to tight end elite status. No,
He's working on it. Like, if you look at his game logs, the last 4 weeks, 16, 11, 16,
monster.
and 21. Obviously didn't play against the Bears. Before that, 18 against Philly and 13 against Pittsburgh. So when you're that consistent, yeah. I mean, I think he's a clear tier below the Kelsey Zach Ertz group. Um, but he's
But
definitely in that second tier and knocking on the door, trying to bust through the ceiling.
yeah, and came and I thought what was also impressive came right back from that injury and
Hmm.
immediately was productive. Like
Yeah, and he came
just
back way sooner than anyone thought, and was very, very good. So yeah, I think that's a great call.
So indie tight ends. There's like you got Doyle and Ebron, I think, who both could be very productive this week. And then they also have a couple like very like no names like Alex Cox or
Mo
Cox
Alley Cox. Mo Alley Cox.
Alley
I
Cox.
figured as a college hoops fan, you know who that is.
No,
He played at VCU. He was a beast. I remember him in the tournament. It was one of Shaka's boys. But yeah, no, he had that touchdown. A little nugget for you. In
yeah,
the 3 games Jack Doyle played this year, Jack Doyle has 193 snaps to Ebron's 70, has 22 targets to Ebron's 12, and has 4 red zone targets to Ebron's 3. So if you're playing Ebron, you really need that touchdown. But if I'm playing a tight end, it's Jack Doyle, and it's not close.
yeah, I totally agree. And just another guy to throw out there was like Eric Swoop.
Swoop, swoop.
Swoop. So another guy who just Andrew Luck just makes relevant for some reason. I don't know why, but I think he might be a good quarterback. So
Yeah, he's all right. If you like, passing quarterbacks that play well.
he's good, and we'll talk about him in the Gambling podcast. But no,
Cannot wait.
I think at tight end it's kind of just you go up or you go down. Maybe a middling guy is Trey Burton. That's about it for me. How about you?
Yeah, no, I'm 100% on board with that. Let's see. Okay, that's very full. So, yeah, no, yeah, although I do want to throw out one name, and you'll see him in a minute. Austin Hooper, I think, makes a lot of sense at sub 4,000. Good matchup, gets enough targets, has a couple games where he's seen big target volume. So the ceiling is there, but the floor is also pretty solid. Defenses, where are you going this week?
Well, Kyle, I loved the Atlanta Falcons defense at the beginning of the season,
Mm-hmm.
and they were decimated by injuries, and they've just been it's no fault of their own. They can't stop anyone. They've had their best players out, and now they're playing the Cleveland Browns, and they had a big sign this week in Bruce Irvin, who, I mean, I don't know how much he has left in the tank, but he's been a productive player in his career. He's going to his hometown, and I think this is a team we've both talked about. We're going to talk about more on the Gambling podcast, but I think this is a team that is on a surge and going against the kind of a rudderless ship in Cleveland, especially offensively. So I'm paying down, and I love the Atlanta Falcons.
I like that call quite a bit. I like 2 defenses. I like the New York Jets at home against whoever is playing quarterback for the Bills.
Who's starting?
We expect Nathan Peterman, I believe, but we'll see. And I don't hate the Bills either. I think, obviously I would have preferred Sam Darnold to play just because he is so consistent with his turnovers. But Josh McCown has been known to throw a few pick sixes. I also, if you want to get cute and get a little aggressive in GPPs, I don't hate Josh McCown in a stack because I think he can. I think he either goes off and has like a monster 300 yards, 3 touchdown game where people start to get really worried about Sam Darnold and his abilities because he plays so well in a seemingly bad offense, or he's a complete dumpster fire and throws 3 or 4 picks. I don't think there's a lot of. I don't think he has 240 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think he is either a monster or a train wreck.
Yeah, no, that I agree. I think there is some potential like for McCown to actually be good. So yes, should be interesting. But yes, the Jets is a fine play. So
and Tampa Bay at 2,000, I know they have been awful, but I think I think Washington is a team that's so heavily built on running the ball, on play action, on doing a few things like that. And without those guards, I think we saw last week how much of a mess they were. I think there's a potential for not a lot of points to be scored against them. Maybe they get a couple turnovers, and at $2,000, I don't expect them to kill you. I don't think Washington goes to Tampa Bay and scores 40 or 50 points. I think, worst case scenario, they lose some sort of 17-13 really ugly game, and at $2,000 doesn't, butcher your team. So I think that's a way to look.
Right, and I think like we talked about, there's like game flow dependent teams, and if Washington gets behind, they're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
They're Alex Smith will probably make mistakes. So I think that's a good like you said, a good like low price punt and play.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. With that being said, shall we unveil our lineups?
Let's do it.
I will let you take the tee and go first.
Alrighty. I am getting somewhat chalky here. I have Patrick Mahomes and Kareem Hunt stacked.
I like it.
My second running back, as I've talked about, is Tevin Coleman. I love him against Cleveland. And then Keenan Allen and Tyler Boyd at my 1 and 2 receivers. Lawrence Fitzgerald as my third receiver, 5,100. And my tight end, Michael Roberts, who I will not stop playing.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Never. He's going to score a touchdown eventually. And the Falcons defense, and right now, as we speak, this is going to change and may fluctuate in many lineups. My flex play, John Ross at 3,900.
That is an interesting play. There's a few players kind of working back from injuries that I think could make sense and could be, a lot of times, especially in GPPs or even in cash, really, people are very weary to play guys coming back from injuries and don't feel great about kind of where they're at, so they tend to stay away from them. So if you can play John Ross, or you can play, somebody who could have a monster game, because as we mentioned, without AJ Green, targets are going to go somewhere, and I expect Andy Dalton to have a good game. So you have to funnel those targets somewhere. So a big game could definitely come from one of those two guys.
How about you?
So I'm going to start at quarterback. And as I mentioned, I love Mr. Phillip Rivers this week, and I will be going there. I think he has a monster game and is really, really worth what you're going to be spending with him. At wide receiver, Keenan Allen, pair him up. We'll see what we can do. I have Christian Kirk at wide receiver. I also have Adam Humphries at wide receiver, a guy who has kind of been under the radar but done really, really well. I think you can throw in Washington. I think Tampa and Fitzmagic has a good game. I have Austin Hooper as my tight end. I went with the Tampa Bay defense, and I'm still trying to figure out, because I really want to play Alvin Kamara, but if I do that, my flex gets a little gross, and I'm looking at Devontae Parker. I'm looking at Chris Godwin. I'm looking at potentially, I'll throw John Ross in there.
John Ross.
Because I want a piece of that.
Together.
I want a piece of that Bengals passing game, and if I'm not spending up for Tyler Boyd, then John Ross makes a lot of sense. Josh Malone could also be really interesting if you want to get real stinky, but he's a wide receiver for the Bengals. And he's practically.
Is he related to Carl?
Yes, it's one of Carl's 37 kids. He's $3,000. So if you want to get real stinky, he although he was limited in practice on Thursday with the hamstring, so maybe he's the guy to avoid. But yeah, let's get John Ross stinky, Rivers, Gurley, Kamara, Christian Kirk, Keenan Allen, Adam Humphries, Austin Hooper. I got John Ross as my flex, and the Tampa Bay defense. Man, that lineup is sexy.
Wonderful. I can't wait to see Michael Roberts versus Hooper. I'm very excited.
Hoopa. Yeah, yeah. So,
Hooper. So wonderful.
yeah, I love that call. I am excited for this weekend, and as always, Bobby, good to talk some DFS. We were gonna take a break. If you like sports betting, make sure you check that out. If you want to dabble in some college DFS, Bobby's got some great names that you can target. Check that out on Fake Pigskin as well. All of our great work over there. If you want rankings, if you want any other content, IDP, we got you covered. Head over to fakepigskin.com. Read Bobby's work. Read my work. Check out our podcast. Subscribe, rate, review. Help us. Tell a friend. If you think we suck, definitely tell a friend, because then they're going to play some bad players and you're going to do good. So for the real Bobby Adcock, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Good luck, everybody.